All right, so Georgia Tech. The Bulldogs, that's Georgia, are favored by 19.5 over the Yellow Jackets. That's Tech. Just so we're all operating on the same wavelength here. I mean, there's no way, right? This game is in Athens, and Georgia's 9-2. They're going to the SEC championship game. There's no way that Georgia, who is going to the SEC championship game regardless of what happens here, or Georgia, who allowed 21 points at home to UMass last week, there's no way Georgia Tech could hang with them, right? Right? Probably not. Probably not. My upset alert meter here, it's not in the red. It's not hovering on the red. It's down on the green. It's incredibly low. Because Georgia last week, I think, needed to play like that against UMass. I think they needed some level of motivation. That's the problem I've seen with Georgia this year. They look flat sometimes, which is strange for a Kirby Smart team. But when they struggle, I look at them and go, they look flat. Why do they look flat? This is Georgia. You're the Bulldogs. You won 2 national championships in the last 3 years. Maybe they're getting a little content with that. This Georgia team that has played in the last few weeks looks closer, save for the Ole Miss game, of course, looks closer to the Georgia team I thought we were going to get before the year. They're my preseason national champion pick, and they can still win that national championship. They get to the SEC championship either way. The pressure would ratchet up on the Bulldogs if Georgia Tech were to pull a stunning upset here. Bigger underdogs have won games outright this year in college football. I will just throw that out there. Here's what I wonder. What is Georgia Tech going to do through the air? I've watched Kirby Smart's defenses, particularly in Athens, just stifle opposing quarterbacks. And Haynes King didn't play a lot last time out against NC State, which was a wild game that nobody saw, by the way, a completely and totally wild, crazy football game. But Georgia Tech won. They're 7-4. Brent Key and company, they're having a really nice year. The good news, though, is that image you have in your head, which Kirby Smart and company are still capable of doing, think Texas on the road earlier this season in Austin in the first half, and really the whole game, they only gave up 15 points. They can make an opposing quarterback look and feel foolish. And you might have a freshman having most of the passing snaps in this game, and Aaron Philo. He can ball a little bit. He's not ready for Georgia. I don't think Haynes King as a passer is ready for Georgia. Here's the good news. UMass last week, the good news if you're Georgia Tech, that is, UMass went for 226 yards on the ground on that very stadium. And what do you think, Georgia? Oh, that's right. Run the ball was an early season famous quote from Brent Key after they upset then 10th ranked Florida State, who we now know is the worst preseason top 10 team in the history of preseason top 10 teams. But this Georgia Tech team is incredibly capable, and you know what they love to do? They love to run the ball. Whichever quarterback is back there, they're going to run the ball. Jamal Haynes, that guy can run it. 717 yards on the ground this year, 9 touchdowns. I think that Georgia Tech could make it interesting for a little, but they'd have to play such a perfect game in order to do the impossible. Now, Carson Beck could give you some opportunities. If they run the ball like UMass did, hey, you never know. I don't know that Georgia Tech's defense can slow down the Georgia offense here, but I will take Georgia Tech to cover 19.5. I will take them to cover that particular game. I'm not going to do every ACC SEC matchup. Got to save some of that for later in the week, obviously. But in this one here, I think Georgia Tech can do enough to just hang around 34-17. That's it. That's it. Nothing special. I don't think it gets incredibly scary. How about South Carolina, Clemson? This game is at Memorial Stadium in Clemson, South Carolina. This is just going to be great. This is going to be a great environment. This is an underrated rivalry in college football. This is one of the reasons I am sometimes okay with ACC and SEC teams playing an 8-game conference schedule, because I know games like this are at the end of the year. Georgia Tech, South Carolina, Clemson. South Carolina, Clemson is much better, of course, but South Carolina comes into this game playing some really good football. But Clemson comes into this game playing, I don't know. Cade Klubnik has been really good this year. Is that how you think of him? Might not have the most yards in the country, but he's got 29 touchdowns and 4 picks. So he and Garrett Riley have figured something out. Somewhere along the way, they've realized, hey, we got some weapons here. We got an opportunity. So when you give me 2 good football teams, and I think these are good teams that in a perfect world, would be on the outside looking in decisively from the college football playoff because they are good, but they are not great. They are not national championship caliber. I'll take the home team here. Clemson's favored by 2.5. They'll cover. They'll cover. But I don't think points are easy to come by in this spot. 24-17, I'll take Clemson to win the game. Duke, how about one of the surprising teams in the ACC? Did you see Duke going for its 9th regular season win as something you had in your bingo card? Malik Murphy set a Duke record for passing touchdowns in a season. He's got 25. He's been pretty darn good. 11 picks, but hey, nobody's perfect all the time. They go to Wake Forest, and I like Duke here because I just don't like that much about Wake Forest. They've been okay. They're fine, but no, I'm going with Duke. Favored by 4. I think they win. I think they cover 31-20. I will take the Blue Devils. Pitt goes to Boston College. Boston College laid the lumber to North Carolina last week and was probably the decisive reason that Mac Brown has been futuristically relieved of his coaching duties. Pitt, once upon a time, was undefeated 7-0. It hasn't gone well for them ever since. They have lost 4 straight. And I think Bill O'Brien gets this done. I do. They're favored by 5. I'll take them by a field goal. Scrappy Pat Narduzzi and company can cover that number. I will take Boston College 24-21. How about the second biggest game? Probably the biggest game in the ACC this week. This is going to be fun. There are going to be a lot of points scored at the JMA Wireless Dome this week in good old Syracuse, New York. Miami on the road. They have to win to make the playoff. Or at least they have to win in order to assure they will get into the playoff. Because remember, Miami is ranked 6th in the country. But what would a loss to an unranked ACC Syracuse team do? Well, probably not a lot of good things. Hurricanes favored by double digits here, but like in the 10-11 range. And I think Syracuse covers that number. But can you really pick against Miami? Can you really look at what the Hurricanes have done this year and think, oh, Syracuse has got them, they're going to get it done? No, I can't, but I can say that Syracuse is going to score a lot of points. 454 yards per game. That's the Syracuse offense. The Miami defense, it's not very good. If Kyle McCord protects the football, they could pull a massive ground-shaking upset here. I don't think they'll have quite enough to do that. Give me the Hurricanes 42-35 over Syracuse. Cal SMU, I talked about this as a potential upset earlier this week, and I did so because the California Golden Bears have a tendency to win games they shouldn't, lose games they shouldn't, and play to the level of their competition. Well, SMU is a higher level of competition, and SMU Miami could be a wildly entertaining and high-scoring, thrilling ACC championship game. If SMU and Miami win this week, they should both be locked into the playoff, in my view, but I'm not a voting member of the College Football Playoff Committee. So I will take SMU to win this game, but in sticking with the belief I have of the very real upset potential in both these games, I'm going to take Cal to cover as well. I'll take SMU 34, Cal 24, 13.5, too many points. Golden Bears find a way to hang around, but SMU ultimately too much at the end. NC State, North Carolina, Wolfpack fighting for bowl eligibility. Are you kidding me? NC State? Are you kidding me, NC State? Yeah, the Grayson McCall injury isn't great, but how did it look when he was in the... It's not great. So the question here for North Carolina becomes, do you rally for Mac Brown or do you fade? I don't really know. I don't really know. There are a lot of guys on that roster. Guess what? A lot of them have been with Mac Brown for a while. I suspect it'll be the rallying side of things, and I refuse to pick NC State in anything because they have just let me down so horribly this year. Shame on you, Wolfpack. Absolute for shame. So I'll take North Carolina to win 28-20. Just kind of that's not a game a lot of people are watching, but North Carolina State. A lot of football being played in the state of North Carolina this week. And finally in the ACC, a true ACC matchup. Virginia Tech, Virginia. Do you realize? Game's in Blacksburg. Do you realize the winner gets to go to a bowl game? Look, as far as low stakes rivalry games go, that's about as high stakes as you can get. Winner to a bowl game, loser, your season is done. Thought Virginia Tech would be more this year. They are not. They are at home, favored by a touchdown in a rivalry game like that. Yeah, you take the points. So Virginia Tech, 28-24. They beat Virginia. That's how the ACC plays out this week. There will be no incorrect predictions or anything of the sort because I've never had an incorrect prediction, obviously. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.